Tomorrow afternoon I'm going to a party and I thought I would bring a pie, so I'm bringing one of these disposable, and I hate calling them disposable because you can really reuse them if you want, but I'm bringing one of these disposable pie pans, and I have buttered it very thoroughly as the recipe dictates, and I'm going to fill it with a walnut pie crust and a lovely pear filling. So come along with me and watch as this pie plate changes from an empty buttered dish to something very magical. Today's recipe comes from this incredibly gorgeous yet out of print book by Molly Katzen. It's called Still Life with Menu Cookbook, and it's filled with lovely paintings and graphics. It's really beautiful, and it's a big shame that it's out of print. Well, for today's recipe, we're using the pear pie with walnut crust, and I'm only going to make very minimal substitutions because I want it to come out close to the original. And all the recipes that I've used from the other Moosewood cookbooks have come out really well, so I trust that this is going to be good. For the walnut crust, the first thing that I have to do is pulse this in my food processor until it's almost a paste. But the recipe says to take it out afterward and make the rest of the recipe in a bowl. I would rather make the rest of the recipe for the crust in the food processor. So what I'm going to do is pulse it until it's grainy so that I can add the other ingredients and finish the recipe pulsing it and chewing up these lovely, wonderful walnuts much more as we go along in the recipe. You can see I've left these in pretty large chunks. So right now what I'm going to do is add, in this bowl we have the cinnamon, a little bit of salt, and a half a cup of all-purpose flour. She doesn't specify all-purpose, she just says unbleached white flour, and that's what I have here. I would love to try this recipe with whole wheat flour actually, because I think it would be really good. So I'm going to add this to the food processor, and then I'm going to cover it and blend it up until it's well incorporated. The nuts and the flour mixture is really, it's gotten this nice mealy texture now, and what I'm going to do is add agave nectar, 1 tablespoon at a time, to the mixture until it comes together just a little bit. The goal of the pie crust dough is to be able to press it into the pan, the prepared buttered pan. In the original recipe, Molly Katzen uses butter, I'm sorry, she doesn't use butter, she uses water to make this dough come together along with regular cane sugar. So that would have been added previously. However, since we're using this liquid sweetener, agave nectar, I am going to dispense with the water and see what I can do with the sugar. I'll show you in just a moment. So after only 2 tablespoons, added 1 at a time and slowly at that, the texture has very much changed in the crust. So what I'm going to do now is collect it from the food processor and gently press it into the pan. The mixture is now pressed into the pan, and what I did was I set aside about 1/4 cup of the pie crust to crumble on top because I think that would look really nice. It's not included in the recipe, but I'm sure it'll be lovely. So it fit very nice in this pan. It's very pretty. You probably can't tell, but it looks almost sparkly because of the way that the walnuts are hitting the light. And it's very nice. It smells good. The cinnamon's really a nice addition. The recipe calls for peeling these pears, but they're such an amazing red color. I'm sure they probably won't stay this red when they're baked, but it seems like a shame to peel them. I'm not really sure what to do. But maybe I'll peel half and leave the skin on the other half because they just really are gorgeous and perfect for a fall day like this. I tried to use the apple peeler corer on the lovely red pears, but some of the pears were a little soft, so I had to cut them by hand into slices and random shapes and that kind of thing. But they're really beautiful, and I simply didn't have the heart to peel them because they're so pretty and so red. And I hope that some of the color stays. Now I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. First thing we do is toss gently the pears with 2 tablespoons of flour until they're very well coated. Next, I added some cinnamon, and by the way, if you haven't tried this yet, you should definitely try Penzeys Vietnamese cinnamon. It's really fantastic. It's so strong and flowery and lovely, and it's just really fantastic cinnamon. You should definitely go get it. I've added the juice of a lemon, actually probably about half a lemon, because it was 1 tablespoon, and the lemon's rind grated with my microplane grater, and 2 tablespoons of agave nectar, although I'm not really sure these pears even need it. They're so sweet and wonderful. So I'm going to continue mixing this for about 1 more minute, and then I'm going to decant it into the pie shell. Okay, the pie is ready to go in the oven, and oh, I hear you saying, what happened to our crumble? Well, the crumble's still there, but I know how agave nectar behaves in the oven, and what it tends to do is burn very quickly. Well, actually, brown very quickly. So what I'm going to do is use a pie crust saver and pop it over the outside of the pie crust so it doesn't burn and it doesn't brown too quickly. And I'm going to let this bake for about half the time, and then put the crumble on top and let it bake and finish out the rest of the pie. This is the pie at 20 minutes. And we can see that it's really well on its way to being done. So now what I'm going to do is take the crumble it on top, spread it out evenly, and we'll take a picture of it right after I'm finished. Okay, I'm going to put this back in the oven to bake for another 15 to about 17 more minutes. It's still a bit on the wet side. I don't know if you can tell, but around the sides it's gotten pretty wet, and the top is brown, so I guess what I'm going to do is let it set and see if it'll gel a little bit because of the flour that was mixed in with the apples earlier.